Hi, I'm Pastor Sarah, and I'm here with my daughter Anna, and Anna's helping me out with our Family Learning Guide video for this week. Thank you for joining me, Anna. And we are on our second parable. So last week we talked about the parable of the prodigal son, and this week we're talking about the parable of the lost sheep. Can you think of other lost things that Jesus talks about? Are there other parables where Jesus talks about something lost?
Well, you said lost sheep, right?
Lost sheep, yeah.
Well, if it's called the lost coin, then
The lost coin, right? And the lost coin's kind of similar too to the premise. Also, it's a little bit like the parable of the prodigal son that we talked about last week. Now, in the parable, the shepherd, right, who's kind of like God, goes to seek the one sheep because that one sheep is really precious to God. Leaves the 99 to go search for the sheep, and the shepherd finds the sheep. Now, have you ever seen a sheep?
I think so.
You think so, right? And do you usually see like one sheep by themselves, or do you usually see a lot of sheep together?
You usually see a lot of sheep.
A lot of them together. Sheep are like meant to be together. Mm-hmm. And so if one sheep is off by itself, is that usually a good thing or a bad thing?
It's probably a bad thing, unless it's like a farm and they're purposely separating.
Or like a petting farm, or like it's probably like a bad thing. It's probably a sheep.
Yeah.
A sheep by itself is dangerous, because what might come after the sheep? What could happen to a sheep by itself?
Well, they'd probably die or get eaten by like a fox or
It could
a
fall,
wolf
it could
or
get
something.
hurt, it could, yeah. And so the shepherd goes to seek out and to find the lost sheep. And as they're doing that, as the shepherd is looking for the lost sheep, they just leave the 99. And so one of the surprising things, we talked about that usually the big message from a parable is whatever the surprise is. So it's kind of surprising for the shepherd to leave the 99 and to go look for that one lost sheep. But one of the things it tells us is that every single person is precious to God. Every single person is precious to God. Can you think of a time when somebody maybe didn't feel very precious, whether it was you or like somebody didn't feel like they were worth very much? So what might be a time that somebody might feel like a sheep that's off on its own, like that they might think that maybe they're not very important or not very loved?
Well, I mean, you probably like wouldn't feel very important if like all of your best friends are like playing a game and like you have to like you just have to sit there and watch. Like either like you physically can't, like you have like a broken arm or a broken leg or something, or like they won't let you or something.
You'd feel pretty left out, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that, like, for me, this parable helping us to know that even if we feel left out or we feel like we're on our own, that God loves us, that we're still really precious to God. And then that can help us remember that sometimes it's accidental. We might make other people feel like they're on the outside. Like, have you ever been at a party or at a gathering at school somewhere, and there's somebody who's like not hanging with the group, and what's a way to help somebody who kind of feels like maybe they're out on their own, to help them feel like they matter? What are some things that you can do?
I mean, they're always like new kids at school. They're always like kind of like hanging off because they're new and like they don't really know like what like the school like does, and they're like kind of confused about like what all they're supposed to do. One of the things you can always do is you can invite them to sit with you at lunch, or you can play with them at recess, or you can offer to help them like unpack. And you can always like at recess you can sit down and talk with them and like get to know them and like be their friend, so that they don't feel like left out. And then you can make your friends come and meet them, and then hopefully your friends like will be friends with them, and then they'll have more friends and more friends and more friends.
Right. Isn't it cool that every person God loves so much, even somebody who might be a really close friend, somebody who might be new to school or whatever group or club or team that you might be on. And so to say that we're followers of Jesus is to say that not only do we believe that God is important, but that every person is important, like no matter what, right? Because the parable doesn't say the sheep that went off was a really good sheep or a really nice sheep. It didn't really matter what kind of sheep it was. It was just that it was one of the sheep, and the shepherd didn't want to lose that one sheep. Well, we like listening to Christian music, don't we? What are some of your favorite Christian songs? Can you think of any worship songs that you really like?
Well, like, are we talking about worship songs or like songs that you play on the
Yeah,
radio?
Christian songs that you might hear on the radio or.
Well, Lighthouse was
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it's called Lighthouse. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. And other songs I can't really.
Well,
remember
one of the songs that I
their
think about with our theme for this week is "Reckless Love," where the song talks about that God's love is like reckless. It's kind of like the shepherd that leaves the 99 to go look for the one. But that's really good news if you're the one that's lost, right? That God's love, there's nothing. I mean, the song talks about like nothing will stop God's love. God will overcome any barriers to come and find us, and that's pretty good news, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that's one thing that we can do this week is we can look at some songs. There's some really great songs that talk about God's love, this love that goes out to seek the lost. And so we'll have to check out some videos this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been great visiting with you all, and I hope that you're able to talk about things that are lost and things that are found, and how awesome it is to get to celebrate the love of God that treasures every single person, that everybody is a beloved child of God, and that we have the chance to share that love with every single person. So have a great week.